As bankers and insurers and other financial bodies under the umbrella of the Association of Senior Staff of Banks, Insurance and other financial institutions have given conditional support to the new cash withdrawal limit proposed by the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. They said there are pros and cons in the new monetary policy. The president of the association, Olusoju Oluwole, acknowledged that the policy will reduce robbery attacks on bank customers, but will create problems for the unbanked and those without access to payment platforms. Well, when this memo was issued by the CBN last week, a lot of people thought, what was this? The highlight of this policy is the reduced number of withdrawals allowed on individual and corporate accounts to 100,000 for individuals and 500 for corporate accounts. The maximum you could withdraw on ATM per day was reduced to 20,000, even on POS machines. And the fact that even lesser denominations will now be available in the machines rather than high notes like 1,500. The CBN has come to say it is putting these measures in place as part of its cashless policy drive. Babajide, is this coming at the wrong time, or is this extreme, or perhaps you're looking at this from a different point of view?
I've been against this from the day the CBN governor, just CBN made the announcement. I am not a banker, but I don't have to be a banker to know the pain that this will inflict on our people. Some people imagine that because they are in power and in government, that they are all-knowing, and that whatever policy they come up with, whether it makes sense or not, we just have to accept it. But we've seen them come up with policy after policy that have failed to achieve anything meaningful. And the CBN governor, this current CBN governor, is an example of such government officials. How many of the policies that he has come up with can stand the real test of critical scrutiny? How many? Not even the anchor borrowers program that they make so much noise about. To see pyramids. The other day we woke up to see pyramids emerge from nowhere. Pyramids of rice bags. But today, rice gets sold for as high as 48 to 50,000.
55,000.
I've not even seen 55. But I know that between 48 and 50,000. So, what is the essence of the anchor borrowers program if it cannot drive down prices
of rice?
Any policy at all that is meant to stimulate growth, that in agricultural production, the main goal, the end game, is to see prices go down, is to see the people able to buy their goods, able to pay for goods and services at competitive prices. If you come up with a policy that is not able to achieve that, you must own up that you have failed.
Totally.
Up there in the north, this local rice is called gumi. And they can't understand why gumi, what the Sokoto man will call gumi, of all things, will be this expensive, despite the humongous sum of money that we have sunk into the anchor borrowers program, whether it is for growing cassava or for growing rice, whatever it is. Rice is a key
commodity
that we want to see the price go down. That has failed. That has failed. The prices show us the prices at which people are buying rice, whether in Bali, in Taraba, or in Lagos, or in Kebbi. Talking about local rice, the prices at which our people are buying it show clearly that the CBN's Anchor Borrowers Program has not achieved the aim. No one can convince me that the aim was not, because what is the point in stimulating production if prices can come down? Well, elsewhere, when you see an uptick in production, you expect to see prices also go down for the product or the produce. For the commodity to be more accessible to our people,
to the surplus.
So this is the thing. I was talking about rice. Now, talking about this policy, the CBN wants us to believe that, it believes in financial inclusion. The whole goal of the cashless policy was to deepen financial inclusion. That was what they told us back then. But what have we seen? You want money agents, popularly known as POS operators in our country, but we always create a name.
We create the name comfortable
suitable
to our own.
People, yes, we create, but they are known as money agents and all that. You want them to be able to withdraw only 20,000 from people's accounts in a day. Whereas when you go to the rural areas where there are no banks, first and foremost, there are so many of our people who do not have bank accounts. Some of them are illiterate. Some of them do not even have enough money to pay what is required to open an account. But the bulk of businesses that stimulate growth are happening in those rural areas, not in the urban centers.
Those in the informal sector.
Agriculture contributes a huge portion of our GDP. The bulk of agriculture happens in those rural areas, not in the urban centers. So, and these people like to transact their businesses without using any form of card payment.
Without any form of interference.
So what we are saying, we are not saying, look, this policy is bad, because some people will misunderstand me now to say the policy is bad. No, one is not saying that. We are looking at the timing. It's not something that you can simply dump on us and say, look, we have to start. What are we talking about? I was in Ilorin yesterday. I wanted to buy Pringles for my children. At the airport, where you should expect that at least I should be able to use my card.
Yeah.
They told me no, that the network has not been networked today. I was forced to use the cash that I had. That's Ilorin. State capital. Ilorin today qualifies as one of the oldest states in Nigeria. It's not a new state. It's not in the class of Ekiti and others. I don't know which state you are from. But I experienced that at the airport. In many places, even here in Lagos, sometimes you want to use your card. As I said, there's no network. Go to Mega Chicken, where many people here in Lagos go to fill their bellies. Go there. You see boldly written on their, behind those guys selling food, they tell you, keep your cash. Keep your cash, because there's no guarantee.
A precaution.
So if you see, you have to take care of the infrastructure needs. That's power, telecommunication. You've not addressed that sufficiently, and you think this thing will just work. That means you are living in a different country.
Okay, all right. TBK, let me allow you to catch your breath a bit and bring GKB into the conversation. GK has highlighted two of the major challenges. First, the technologies may not be sufficient to accommodate the number of Nigerians they want to bring in. And thirdly, that this may not be the right time to implement these drastic changes. But the CBN has highlighted some of the benefits. It said it would enhance security, that people who are paying for ransom will no longer be seeing it as an attractive venture. It will curb inflation. They've also said it would also help in addressing the exchange rate value. More importantly, will also reduce corruption in the system and, of course, take down the threat of fraud on bank accounts. Do you think perhaps the pros outweighs the cons this time? Talking about, do you think the benefits outweighs the challenges that we may face?
I cannot really, for the life of me, believe all those that they tell us, for two reasons. I know, because I know they copied this from somewhere. In some countries, ATM will not give you beyond $20. In some countries, more than £20. If I remember the day I brought out £50 in a London restaurant, they have to call the police. I understand that part. But those countries have a cap on the cost of food. They have a cap. You know exactly how much you pay for food. Until the Russian war, you can guess how much you need to spend on food every month in some countries because the price is constant. Variation is very small. Are you telling me that is the amount we bought rice last year, December, that we are buying rice today? I'm talking about countries that have done excess production, that they give out the excess to other countries. Have we reached that point where we have the food and the price at such an equilibrium that Nigeria can afford to give it out to Republic of Benin or to Togo, wherever they want to? Yet we are buying a bag of rice for 55,000. Let me even come back home. In Okeari, all those women, at Balogun, at Oshodi, at Mushin, they transact business in the millions. This is their peak season, December. Because normally somebody will go out and come and say, how much did you make today? Say, an average of about 700,000. That's the money he or she made today. Because this is the peak period for those in those markets. How do you want him to transact business of 700,000 when the cap is, what's that amount again?
500,000 for business accounts, 100,000 for individual
How's
accounts.
he going to do it? Because I'm talking about making 700,000 every day. And tomorrow they have to take back that money back to the Kora to buy more lace so they can sell tomorrow and make more money. How does that work? That's number one. Number two, majority of our people are in the rural areas. They have no idea what it's about. In fact, on radio, I call this one a policy for the city dwellers. Because once you are moving out of Lagos, Ibadan, Ilorin, this will be strange to them. Because exactly what you want them to do with this law. Number three, most critical. Even when you are transferring using POS or whatever you use, I know because my wife is a trader that sometimes the alert will show, but there's no money in the account.
Fake alert, dummy alert.
You know what that means? That means you are expecting somebody who is busy, selling something close to 1 million naira, and say, okay, let me pay you through this at 200,000. I said, okay, I've seen the alert. Give him or her the clothes. And 2 hours later, how much money do you think they will lose?
All right, GKB will come to you to talk about where should we go forward and perhaps help the CBN fine-tune this policy. We hear that the National Assembly is also reviewing the policy.
Seriously.
And they've invited the CBN to come and discuss with them while urging them to stay execution, so to say, at this point in time. Let's go. We're still looking at the economy and the impact or the implication or perhaps reactions to the CBN's policy, the new monetary policy by the CBN saying it is reducing cash transaction as part of measures to buckle up the cashless policy. BKO, we've talked about the challenges. We've talked about the fact that technology may not be sustainable. Not many Nigerians are bankable. Of course, the CBN has said it is putting measures in place to ensure that. But let's talk about the citizens. Are there action the citizens need to also take note in how we handle our currency and also the role of how we can help the economy stabilize or control inflation? Because we've seen cases of people stockpiling money in their house for no reason. I mean, during this current ongoing process, we've seen people bring out bags and baggages of naira stocked in the house, for whatever reasons. Are there certain things the citizens should also be mindful of, even as we call the CBN to review this policy in the interest of many Nigerians?
Well, there are many people who do not believe that they should use the banks for cultural and religious reasons. We now have Islamic banks for those who don't want any form of interest on their money and all that because they see that as similar to gambling, So people can be encouraged to keep their money in the banks. But there are people who transact business on their feet. They don't wait. And these people do business in billions of naira. If you've lived in Kano before, you go to Singa Market, Kantenkori, you see people employed simply to count money. Able-bodied men, that's all they do throughout the day, just count money. Because these guys are transacting business in cash, just like that. And people come from as far as Central African Republic to buy textile materials and all that. Such people, what we are saying is this thing has to be done gradually. You don't just wake up one day and say, no. Even in South Korea, when they wanted to transit from cash
To cashless.
to cashless, they had to create incentives. They got the merchants together and told them, look, if you resort to card payment, we will make sure that VAT on your business, on your pieces of business that you do, we waive them. Some tax exemptions, those ones now became the people who now became champions of cashless transactions, and now we're talking directly to the ordinary people because they were making money. Government created incentives for them to be able to embrace cashless economy or cashless transactions. Today, South Korea is the second highest when it comes to card payment.
Okay.
Relative to the population, after the US, South Korea is second in the world because they consciously prepared for it, created incentives, and took banking to the doorstep of people. Today, many of the banks in the rural areas are no longer there. So you want everybody to have a card, because without it, you can barely survive under this regime, under what this man is planning. If you don't have bank accounts, you can't operate. Okay. So those who sit in the urban centers and are thinking, this thing can work, they don't give a hoot about those in the very distant rural areas in our country. You are not more Nigerian than those people. Some of them work harder than the people in the cities who even have access to money that they can steal from their companies, from the national team. Yes.
All right, VK, if we allow you to go deeper into this, you will definitely provide more insight and perspective to the conversation. But we're pressed for time, we have to go. GKB, let me have your final take on this. The CBN governor, Governor Emefiele, has been in charge of the CBN for about 8 years now.
Yeah.
Why are these policies coming at what many may call the tail end of his tenure as the governor of the bank? Is there perhaps a need for the CBN governor to redeem the time or perhaps redeem his image as the CBN governor? Is there certain idea or initiative behind this reforms we're seeing from the CBN?
Well, you and I know that mortality is a leveler. The man is looking at the end of his tenure and he's looking back. I could not see anything of value that he has added in relative terms to the normal people of Nigeria. When he came in, I think the Naira was 198 or 200 and something to the dollar. Now we are knocking on the door of 1,000 Naira to the dollar. That's not a very good take-home for anybody who is the prime banker.
That is a blot on a CV.
So whatever he's doing now is basically a knee-jerk approach to create a legacy. And I can tell you this is not going to work.
All right. Let's leave it at that. Let's see how it pans out. The CBN says it will be effective from January 2023, perhaps also tailored in line to influence the general elections. But we'll see how that pans out.